Dawson's face went pale. He stared at his master, and his mind went blank. He couldn't help but wonder, who am I? What is this place? What am I doing here? Mr. Paganis gave him an encouraging look. Dawson shook his head repeatedly, wondering what he had done to make his master treat him in such a way. General Gooch patted him on the shoulder. "The prince doesn't have any spiritual essence left," he explained. He knew Mr. Paganis had appointed Dawson to humiliate Warwick. If the prince couldn't defeat a mere spiritual king, he would have no reason to be so proud. Mr. Paganis wanted to mess with his mind. No spiritual essence, Dawson thought. He jumped to his feet and clenched his fists. He knew Ariana had tricked them and taken the real potion away. He had also noticed how long she had held the crown prince and deduced that she must have used it on him. However, Warwick moved before Dawson could warn his master. Nobody knew how he did it, but everybody saw it. At least they saw Mr. Paganis move. Warwick punched him with his right fist, then spun around as if he had transformed into a tornado. The air seemed to twist and warp. Mr. Paganis had always appeared to be tough, but the impact of the prince's fist rendered him powerless. When he landed, the ground cracked under his feet. With each step he took, his feet sunk deeper into the ground. He kept falling back. When he finally stopped moving, he looked down and saw that he had sunken down to his knees. Dawson turned even paler and looked at General Gooch. Didn't he just say that Warwick doesn't have any spiritual essence? He wondered. General Gooch was dumbfounded. He knew that Night Owl had blown himself up with Warwick, and both of them should have lost their spiritual essence. "Mr. Paganis!" he exclaimed as he rushed to his side. Meanwhile, everyone from the Mystic Kingdom who knew that Warwick had lost his spiritual essence was relieved. Master Harper and Dr. Harper weren't among them, so they looked at Mr. Paganis in bewilderment. Has this man lost his mind? Dr. Harper wondered. Doesn't he know how formidable the Crown Prince is? Mr. Paganis was completely baffled by the outcome. He didn't know how it had happened to him. Ariana had tricked him several times, and Warwick had just humiliated him in front of everybody. General Gooch and Mr. Paganis were wondering the same thing. They couldn't understand how the Crown Prince had regained his power. They also knew that if Warwick recovered his strength, Night Owl would lose whatever advantage he had over him. Not only that, but Night Owl had also put himself in a difficult spot. Mr. Paganis fought back. He couldn't let everyone see him spit out blood. Meanwhile, the Crown Prince stood still after that single strike. "Give me a hand," he whispered to Ariana. Ariana stared at him. "Again?" she asked. His punch packed a lot of strength. Why does he need my help now? She wondered. The Crown Prince didn't say a word, but he swayed a little. She immediately caught him by his waist. Dr. Harper was furious. Those two need to control themselves, she thought. Dr. Harper would have spit fire when she saw Ariana grab Warwick. Pete glanced at Ariana's tight grip on the prince and felt a little envious. She seemed to be very much in love with him, and Pete felt left out. He had never had a chance to win her heart. Ariana could feel Warwick shivering as she clung to his waist. She thought he was trying to keep something under control and wondered what it was. She was perplexed. Meanwhile, Mr. Paganis cupped his fists at the prince. "Goodbye, Your Royal Highness," he declared. "I'll see you around." He promptly left after that. His assassins followed him, as did General Gooch. Dawson looked at Warwick and then turned to Ariana. She looked back at him, and he panicked when they locked eyes. He dashed off without another moment of hesitation. Master Inti was the last to leave, but she looked over her shoulder after each step to glance back at Warwick. She wasn't even trying to hide the passion in her eyes. However, nobody paid any attention to her because so many other women gave him the same look. Master Harper wondered why the Crown Prince had stopped when he could have captured or killed Mr. Paganis. She thought he had passed up such a wonderful opportunity. Warwick glanced at the two Beast Kings perched on a branch nearby. They quickly jumped down and ran out of the woods like two streaks of lightning. Ariana was about to introduce her new friend, the Sacred Imperial Spider, to the Crown Prince, but she was already gone. She was surprised. "Isn't this the spider's home? Why did she just run away?" she wondered. Just then, Warwick let go of Ariana's hand. "You guys can leave now," he said. He was ordering everybody, including Ariana, to go. She was bewildered by the prince's order and had no idea why he wanted her to leave. Suddenly, a thought struck her. She recalled her symptoms when she had absorbed the immortal spirit fruit. She had felt weak and helpless. At that moment, they heard somebody running toward them. Ariana turned around and saw that it was Dr. Harper. The doctor bumped into her on purpose. She figured the collision would knock the girl a few steps back, but it did the complete opposite. Ariana wasn't as fragile as she expected, and the impact almost knocked the doctor to the ground instead. She felt a shooting pain up her arm and into her shoulder. Dr. Harper glared at Ariana, wishing she could bore a hole into the girl's head with just her eyes. She turned around and found herself standing in front of Warwick. She had behaved like a spoiled and short-tempered heiress when dealing with Ariana, but her demeanor completely changed when she encountered the prince. She tilted her head and looked at the prince with admiration. She batted her eyelashes at him and gave him a coy smile. Ariana was astonished. She rubbed her eyes, thinking she was seeing somebody else. But when she opened them, she saw it was indeed the doctor. "Your Royal Highness," the woman said, speaking in a soft, childlike voice. A chill ran down Ariana's spine. She was disturbed by the doctor's tone. Ariana couldn't believe that voice came from a supreme-level medicine refiner. The Crown Prince cast a stern look at Dr. Harper, turned on his heel, and walked in the opposite direction. She panicked and followed him. She didn't know why he was walking away from her. "Your Royal Highness, she began to say, but she flew backward before she could finish her sentence. It was the way the prince signaled to her that he wasn't going to put up with her nonsense. Ariana chuckled inwardly while everyone else was surprised. Master Harper was offended by her niece. The Crown Prince had never treated Dr. Harper that way before. He would ignore her at most, but he was being much more hostile toward her than usual, and her aunt was filled with despair. Seeing how slowly Warwick walked away, Ariana knew he was having a difficult time. She immediately told the others, "Leave, now! Stay as far away as you can!" She glanced at Master Holmes. Although he didn't know why she had commanded them to leave, he trusted her. The girl had proven to be reliable many times over. Master Holmes gathered everyone and exclaimed, "Let's go." Master Harper grabbed Dr. Harper and left quickly. As for Jake and Pete, they only needed one look from Ariana to know they should also go away. Before long, she was the only one there. She realized she shouldn't be there either and felt she should leave as well. However, she lifted one foot to begin walking away when she heard Warwick groan. He was writhing in pain. It seemed he had been trying to hide it from everyone so that they wouldn't think he was weak. She froze, not sure what to do. Her mind went blank for a moment. She tried to pretend it wasn't happening, but he was suffering. He let out another moan. What should I do now? She wondered. Should I pretend I didn't hear anything and just walk away? That seemed to be the only option, so she settled on it. She was about to slip away when she heard another groan. It was much louder. She turned to see Warwick grasp his stomach, and then he keeled over. She wasn't sure what to do. She knew he wanted her to leave, but couldn't bring herself to do so. She was too concerned for the prince's health. She headed over to him and noticed a green snake slithering around his body. She paused for a moment and studied the serpent. It had orange markings on its back, which indicated that it was venomous. She took out her sword and threw it at the snake. It hurt instantly. At that moment, Warwick looked at Ariana. She saw fear in his eyes and rushed to his side. As he trembled, he lifted his hand and revealed puncture marks on his abdomen. The snake, she thought. I don't know where it came from or how it attacked the prince without anyone noticing, but it must have. She quickly took a potion out of her utility belt and forced it down Warwick's throat. It was a concoction meant to eliminate poison from the body if someone swallowed it as a toxin. She wasn't sure if it would work on snake bites, but it was all she had. After just seconds, Warwick's eyes brightened and he stood straight. She was relieved. He smiled at her for a moment until he vomited all over his shoes. Warwick was utterly embarrassed after getting sick. He was also infuriated. When Ariana saw the look in his eyes, her first reaction was to flee. The Crown Prince had always been an intimidating figure, but she couldn't remember a time when he was both so mortified and incensed at the same time. Warwick glared at Ariana. "Get lost!" he roared. The temperature seemed to drop. His cheeks were so red that she almost thought they were bleeding. He kept his unwavering gaze on her. Ariana didn't know what to do. She thought he was going to explode in anger at any moment, but she couldn't leave him. She carefully approached him, acting as if nothing had happened. "Warwick, are you ready to leave?" she asked casually. She could tell his anger was easing, so she tried to change the subject. She asked softly, "Aren't you curious how I found the immortal spirit fruit? It was so intense. I almost died." A murderous look flickered in his eyes when she mentioned death. "They could have killed me," she added. Her gentle voice made him feel sorry for her. When she led him to sit on a rock, he followed her and sat down, despite his reluctance. She had no idea that if she hadn't shown up, the prince would have killed many people in the woods to save her. She looked down at the dead snake and realized how close its venom had come to killing Warwick. "He's too proud. He should have come to me immediately," she thought. They stared at the snake together, hands intertwined as they sat on the rock. It felt like hours had passed when Warwick abruptly got up and kicked the serpent's lifeless body. She watched as he stumbled back to her, still dehydrated from having thrown up. She stood and ran over to him. He leaned on her as they walked back over to the rock and sat once again. Ariana decided to try and cheer him up while he recovered. She spoke about how beautiful the trees in the forest were. She put her arm through his and started telling him how she had tricked Mr. Paganis. She did her best to cheer him up, but he didn't look any happier. He sat with a scowl on his face as he listened to her ramble on. All the plants around him bent away, intimidated by his energy. It was clear he was still embarrassed and angry about what had happened. Suddenly, Ariana felt the rock under her move. She turned around to find it covered with cracks that looked like a spider web. Her eyes widened as she realized that Warwick's fiery energy had damaged the rock. She backed away from him just a bit. He watched her grow increasingly nervous. When she looked up at him, their eyes met, and everything fell silent for a second. It was as if all sound had disappeared. In order not to upset him further, she decided she would continue to make casual conversation. She started to say, "When I was in the peacock's territory," but Warwick suddenly vomited again. She was concerned that he would be even more upset, so she ignored what had happened and continued talking. She said, "I was in those woods when..." But he threw up again. At that point, she decided it was time to cut through his pride and comfort him. She tried not to hurt the Crown Prince's dignity, but saw the pain in his eyes. When Warwick saw that she was concerned, he didn't know what to do. He had never felt so humiliated in front of her before. Terrifying energy filled the air. All the trees were pulverized and the ground cracked open. The Crown Prince was furious. He wanted to leave, but the girl seemed to be stuck to him and he couldn't break free. She wouldn't let him run off. She knew she had to keep him there. If he ran away, she might not be able to get him back. She placed her hand on his stomach, hoping it would settle soon. Warwick's face darkened, and his eyes were cold as ice. He could feel her hand quivering as it rested on his abdomen. "Are you in pain?" she asked. He looked at her and nodded. He thought he saw a flicker of affection flash across her face, which was when he decided to stop hiding his vulnerability from her. As they sat together, his stomach began to feel better. At that moment, Ariana's eyes suddenly lit up. She had a strong feeling that something amazing was about to happen. As Ariana tried to steady her hand on Warwick's stomach, she felt the urge to make a breakthrough. Is that possible? Does touching Warwick's stomach have that effect? She wondered. She suddenly remembered that she'd had a similar reaction when she ate the immortal spirit fruit. And as the people around her tried to comfort her, they had made breakthroughs too. She immediately sat on the ground. Something happened before her spiritual essence ran 2 full cycles. She felt a rumble and the familiar signs of her breakthrough. She was already a junior level 3 spiritual king, and during the breakthrough, she became a junior level 4 spiritual king. However, it seemed she wasn't done yet. Her breakthrough continued. When Ariana opened her eyes, the sun had risen, and she noticed that she had made another breakthrough. She was a level 5 spiritual king. How has this happened? Nobody would believe this, she thought. She looked up at Warwick and realized he had just removed her hand from his stomach. During her breakthrough, he had kept her hand in place to provide her with spiritual essence. She felt rather guilty. He was so mad at her, but he had still helped her make several breakthroughs. She'd had the opportunity only because he had vomited after digesting the potion. Ariana looked at Warwick, genuinely feeling sorry for him. The Crown Prince's cheeks were red. Is he still feeling ill? She wondered. She touched his forehead and cried, "You have a fever." She pitied him even more. "You're ill. It's very cold out here at night, and you haven't recovered yet. You sat here with me for so long and provided spiritual essence for me. I can't believe you did this for me," she said. She was overwhelmed with guilt. Warwick had wanted to tell her it was a symptom of his bloodline, but when he saw how worried she was, he kept his silence. He figured that she would forget all about his reaction to the potion if she felt bad for him. He turned away and wouldn't talk to her. She immediately caught on to what he was doing. She held his arm and said softly, "It's so cold out here. Let's get back to the fortress," she suggested. She looked up at the sky. "It's going to rain. We can't let you get wet," she added. The prince didn't respond. She took his hand and led him toward the fortress, and he let her, despite his obvious reluctance. As soon as they set foot inside, all eyes were on their joined hands. When they saw them holding hands, some people disrupted their friends who were cultivating so they could gawk at the couple as well. It wasn't something they saw every day. Ariana was embarrassed by the attention and wanted to let go. Warwick tightened his grip on Ariana's hand, so she was forced to endure the scrutiny. So many people had gathered on the fortress wall, including Turin and his friends. Countless people were gossiping about Ariana and the Crown Prince. They had different opinions, but they were all equally shocked. "Isn't that Ariana from the junior arena?" someone asked. "That's right. She punched Yolanda, kicked Nozel, and killed Denzel," another added. "I was so in love with her. Why is she holding hands with the prince?" a boy inquired sadly. "Wake up. Who do you think you are? What makes you think you're good enough for her?" his friend exclaimed. "Can't I dream about it? Yes, she's pretty and talented, but that's our crown prince. I know I never had a chance," he replied. The people in the fortress thought Warwick was invincible. When he was a little over 12 years old, he entered the Dayless Woods alone and defeated the 7 Beast Kings. No one knew what kind of energy he possessed, but they all understood it worked on magical beasts. Ariana became more uncomfortable as everyone stared on. She looked at Warwick and motioned at her hands. She wanted him to let go, but he refused to loosen his grip. She looked up at the sky and tried to steady her breathing. She felt mounting pressure from those watching them. Turin and the other team members were thrilled to see Warwick and Ariana together. "Are they making it official now?" Andy cried out. The other people around him were excited. "What do you mean? Has this been going on for a while?" a level 4 spiritual king asked. Normally, a person at his level wouldn't have even spoken to Andy, but he was hungry for gossip. They all were. They couldn't help themselves. Andy wanted to show off how much he knew, so he played along and replied, "That's right. Didn't you hear about it before?" Most people around them moved closer to listen in. Andy described how Warwick had behaved during the competition between the two schools. "That's so sweet," Somebody said, "No, it isn't!" A girl shrieked. Not everybody was happy. "Look how passionate they are! Ariana is holding on to His Royal Highness's hand!" Another shouted. "It's understandable that the prince can't help himself. She's so beautiful. Why wouldn't he choose her?" A person added. "She's a level 2 spiritual king, isn't she? She must have put all her efforts into wooing the prince. That's why she hasn't made any progress," a boy speculated. At first, they all praised the pair, but gradually public opinion turned against Ariana, just as it always had. Turin and the others argued with them, defending her honor. However, the crowd continued to say unkind words about her. In the end, Turin and his friends walked away from the group. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't repair her reputation. "Why do I feel that Ariana is in danger?" Andy asked as he rubbed his forehead. He had thought it was great that Warwick and Ariana joined hands, but it seemed she had gained more enemies than friends after their public display of affection. Turin snorted. "Those people think too highly of themselves and have funny ideas. Just wait and see," he said. Once Warwick and Ariana were back at the general's quarters, she walked him to his room. She helped him get settled and turned to leave. But before she could, the prince asked her to stay. Ariana was bewildered. "Why do you need me to stay here?" she asked. The crown prince replied, "I'll be absorbing the potion for a while longer." He also had to activate his Dragon Phoenix bloodline. However, he kept the second part from Ariana because he decided to tell her after he succeeded. Recalling what had happened in the woods earlier, the crown prince blushed and stared at Ariana. "It'll take me 10 to 14 days. Please don't go anywhere. Just stay here in the fortress. Got it?" The prince's face was illuminated by the sunlight. His skin glistened and his eyes sparkled. Ariana was bewitched. She immediately agreed to stay with him. The crown prince rubbed her head tenderly and went into his cultivation room before she had a chance to ask any questions. She realized what had happened only after Warwick left. "He rubbed my head. My beautiful master used to do that," she thought. She touched the top of her head where he had rubbed it. She didn't feel uncomfortable about it. His touch was easier to accept than she had expected. Suddenly, her heart raced as she wondered, "Am I in love with Warwick? No, I can't be. We're buddies. That's all. Right?" After considering her relationship with the prince for a few more minutes, she managed to convince herself that it was just friendship and put the idea of love aside. She stood alone in the room and recalled what her plan was. She had brought back so many badges, and her friends could use some of them. As she raced down the corridor to share them with them, she thought about how excited they would be to see the insignias. She entered the students' quarters to find Turin, Andy, and a few others gathered together. They were all mumbling their frustrations. As students, they had very few opportunities to earn badges. They could only explore the outer ring, where essence crystals were hard to come by. Because they hadn't graduated yet, they couldn't go to the middle ring, and they had been making slow progress. Andy stomped his foot and complained, "We're all spiritual kings. We're qualified to graduate and enter the middle ring. I'm tired of waiting." Turin shook his head and said, "We don't have enough points." Andy was unsatisfied with his friend's response. Those seniors were so mean, but we can't argue with them because we can't get into their area. We need 3,000 points to graduate. One essence crystal is 100 points, and one major's badge is 600 points. But majors hardly ever come to the outer ring, so we never get the chance to fight them. Are we ever going to graduate? I want to go to the middle ring, he said. Turin understood his friend's frustrations, but he knew there were more pressing matters at hand. Forget about that. We have to get Axel out. He's locked up. Let's go find Ariana, he replied. They had all agreed that they needed to go to Ariana for help when she suddenly walked in. Without saying a word, Ariana walked in and dumped the bag of badges on the table. "I've brought you a gift," she said generously. She looked at them proudly. "Guys, take whatever you want," she added. She sat down and beamed at the team members. Before they could say anything to her, Turin was eager to tell her what had happened to Axel, so he ignored the bag and shouted, "Please help our captain!" Their captain? Does he mean Axel? She wondered. She thought her gift would be greeted with cheers, but they were asking for her help instead. She leaned forward and asked, "What's going on?" "Captain Axel has been arrested! Please help him!" Turin cried. She became serious. "How did that happen? Why was he arrested? Who did it? Where is he now?" she asked. "The other day, Captain Axel said His Royal Highness was in love with you. When Dr. Harper heard him, she claimed he slandered the prince, so she had Axel arrested and locked him up," Andy explained. Ariana blushed at the thought of her and the prince. "But it's the truth, right? You and the prince were holding hands when you came back. How can it be slander? You two are in love," Turin insisted. Her cheeks turned red. Andy tugged on her sleeve and said, "Let's go rescue Captain Axel. We've tried to visit him several times, but they never let us see him. We don't know what condition he's in." Ariana thought about Axel. He had always been kind to her. He had gone with her to the Dayless Woods, even when he knew how dangerous it was. He was a true friend. She crossed her arms and sighed. "What do we do when someone messes with our friends?" she asked. The others cheered in unison. "We attack!" Ariana stood up and exclaimed, "Let's go!" Everybody followed her out. She was the Crown Prince's future wife, and His Royal Highness was madly in love with her. They would follow her. Ariana turned to Andy and said, "Wait, can you go back and collect the badges and put them in that bag?" All they could think of was Axel, so no one had paid much attention to the bag or badges, but he quickly scooped them up before chasing after his teammates. They soon arrived at the jail and walked right in. "Hey, stop!" a guard screamed. He waved his hand at them and said, "Don't you know where you are? You can't just go in as you please." Ariana glanced at the guard and chuckled. Peace Grassland is indeed an incredible place. Even the guards are level 4 spiritual kings. No wonder Turin and the others couldn't get in, she thought. Both schools shared the same jail, and each school also provided one master to run the place together. Even the two guards came from different schools. The one who shouted at them was from the military academy, and Ariana was disgruntled by his lack of decorum. She didn't say anything, but Andy stepped forward and announced, "We're here for our friend. Let us in." Turin glared at Andy, wondering if he was too confident in the team's ability to take on the guards. But Andy wasn't scared because Ariana was with them. She rubbed her forehead, trying to come up with an alternative plan to get past the security. Before she could do anything, the level 4 spiritual king from the military academy smirked and said, "Are you breaking a prisoner out of jail? You're only students. Don't make me laugh." His shoulder strap said his name was Kevin. "Are you trying to stop us?" Ariana asked. Kevin smiled. "So what? Do you want to force your way in?" He replied. "No, I'll just walk in," she answered. Kevin noticed her badge and raised his eyebrows. She's a student, and yet she's quite arrogant, he thought. "I told you, you can't go in. What's wrong with you?" he exclaimed. He was always hostile toward Sphinx Academy students. He thought none of the students could do anything to him. But he was very much mistaken. Ariana only used one strike and he flew backward. He crashed to the ground. The pain was excruciating, but it was nothing compared to how embarrassed he was. He had been beaten up by a current student. She had only used one strike and he had no power to fight back. Andy looked at Ariana with wide eyes. The other guard, Janet, was a senior from Sphinx Academy, and she was also shocked. Kevin's a level 4 spiritual king. How could a current student's punch have such power? She wondered. She slowly backed away and told someone to fetch the prison officials. Before the others could arrive, Ariana walked into the building without glancing back at Kevin. Janet didn't dare try to stop her. She knew she couldn't, even if she wanted to. Kevin spat out blood when he saw all the people swagger inside. He put a hand on his chest and stumbled to his feet. He planned to complain and decide he would go to Dr. Harper, the only supreme-level medicine refiner in the fortress, and Mr. Fabiano, the highest-ranking prison official. "You'll never get out of here alive after I report you," he shouted at Ariana. She smirked. That man had no idea what cards she had up her sleeve. She led the team through the building. Andy felt uncertain about the plan. He was nervous they were going to get into trouble. "Ariana, where's His Royal Highness?" he whispered. "He's in seclusion," she replied. They all froze and stared at her in disbelief. They didn't believe they would be able to break Axel free without the prince's help. "Is that true?" Andy felt his heart sink. "Will he come out soon?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, it'll take him at least 2 weeks," she answered. Andy stumbled backward. 2 weeks? We'll be buried by then, he thought. All of them urged her to turn back around and leave. She was puzzled. "Why?" she asked. "We can't hope to pull this off without Prince Warwick to help us," Andy croaked. "Did you hear who that guard is going to fetch? He just said he's getting Mr. Fabiano. We won't get out of this prison in one piece." "Don't worry." Ariana dismissed his concerns with a waft of her hand. "You have me." Then she marched off before he could ask how, as a level 2 spiritual king, she could make such a claim, leaving him no choice but to follow in her wake. With Janet alongside, they reached the cells without being stopped. "Where's Axel?" Ariana asked the guard. "Over there on the left." Janet pointed toward a narrow corridor with individual cells lining either side. In common with the rest of the fortress, the cells for each academy were kept apart, with those for the military academy on the left and the Sphinx Academy on the right. The occupants of the cells eyed the visitors. All the prisoners are serving sentences running to decades, the guard explained. Decades? Ariana's head whipped around to face her. And Axel has been put here? There must be some mistake. But from what she had seen of Dr. Harper, she knew it was no oversight. Ariana! Hearing their friend's voice, she and Andy ran to Axel's cell and found the formerly lively teenager curled up in a corner and whimpering like a puppy. He was covered in whip marks and his clothes were stained. Fury swept through her at the sight. Hey, who are you people? Who permitted you to come in? A stern voice shouted. A warden ran out of his room holding a whip. With his full beard, height, and powerful build, he cut a fearsome figure. Ariana sensed he was at least a level 5 spiritual king. Get out! He shouted. Do you want to get killed? To reinforce the threat, he raised his whip at Ariana, not expecting to have to do any more to scare away mere students. Andy paled as he saw the whip's hand flex and flick. But nothing landed on Ariana. Coolly, she caught the tip of the whip in between her thumb and index finger. The warden, still holding the handle, looked bewildered as the length of the leather strap stretched as he pulled in an increasingly frantic effort to free it from her grasp. With growing embarrassment, he saw that his one-sided struggle was the focus of everyone's attention and entertainment. The warden was dumbstruck. He was a level 5 spiritual king, yet he was the one wrestling to free his whip, while a mere teenager was calmly holding its tip between her finger and thumb, and she was only a student. But his humiliation was not yet complete. As he strained at the whip, Ariana let go, sending him crashing back into the bars of a cell. Paralyzed by both pain and embarrassment, he glared at her in an impotent rage. Without a word, Ariana casually tossed something to Andy. Catching it, he saw it was a set of keys. The warden instinctively reached for his belt, but found no keys hanging there. He looked back toward the students in bewilderment. When? How? He quickly resigned himself to receiving no explanation and simply watched, helpless, as they moved toward the cell door. Then, the bellow of an angry female voice drew everyone's attention. How dare you? The voice yelled. Kevin, the guard whom Ariana had sent crashing to the ground with a single strike, had indeed fetched Dr. Harper. It was she who had appeared at the end of the corridor, along with one of her suitors, Monty McCall. Dr. Harper's fury was focused on Ariana as she strode toward the group. It didn't take you long to get back on your feet, I see, Ariana said, somewhat surprised. She had last seen the doctor being carried away by her aunt after being struck by Prince Warwick. Are you sure you don't need some more rest? She continued with mock concern. You were injured pretty badly after all. Noting the rising color on his beloved's face, Monty was baffled. Do you know what happened? He asked. Hasn't she told you? Ariana replied with her question. But she knew the answer. The doctor would never admit what had happened. She might have done it to anyone else who had injured her, but the Crown Prince? Never. Monty turned from Ariana to Dr. Harper with a questioning look. Shut up! It's got nothing to do with any of you, the doctor snapped. Ariana smirked. Desperate to regain the upper hand, Dr. Harper's eyes glinted as she took in the scene. I see that, quite apart from injuring Kevin here, You've now done the same to the warden on this wing and taken his keys. It's a good thing he fetched me in time to prevent this prison break. Warden, take her down." Having learned through her aunt's connections that the Crown Prince was in seclusion, Dr. Harper was confident that there would be no one coming to save the girl this time. Noting the hesitation by the warden, Dr. Harper smiled maliciously and pointed at Ariana. "Take her down. If anyone tries to help her, kill them," she demanded. As the warden looked at Dr. Harper shamefaced, Ariana looked from one to the other. "You have no idea, do you?" she thought, noting the doctor's failure to read the room. "You should have spent more time on people skills." "Do it!" the doctor ordered, oblivious to the fact that the warden's demeanor had drooped. Still smarting from having been so easily cast aside by the student, but fearful of the repercussions for disobedience, the warden inched forward. "Go into the cell," he urged. Ariana regarded him with amusement. "Did you just ask me to lock myself up?" she asked. The warden looked down at his boots. "Oh, you're so obedient," Ariana teased. "Is Dr. Harper your mom?" There was a collective gasp. The warden's face glowed scarlet through his beard. "How dare you insult me in this way?" Dr. Harper snarled. "I'll show you." Unable to control her temper, she drew the soft-bladed sword from around her waist and pointed it at Ariana's throat. "Die!" she yelled. Although most of her time had been spent developing her medical skills, she had kept up with basic training, and as a level 4 spiritual king, believed herself more than capable of taking down a mere student. Not for the first time, the doctor had underestimated Ariana's ability. Before she had time to make the first thrust, Dr. Harper felt Ariana's hand grasping the hilt of her sword, and she could only watch, petrified, as her opponent pushed the blade back toward her. "Stop!" But Monty's cry came too late. Ariana hit her with the blade. "Dakota!" He rushed to support the doctor as Ariana stepped away. "Have you lost your mind?" he raged, desperately trying to stem the bleeding. "Do you have any idea what you've done? She's the only supreme-level medicine refiner in the fortress, and she's Master Harper's niece. If she dies, then so do you." As he carried the limp body of his beloved, he yelled, "You're still dead, even if she lives." A shocked silence descended on the prison corridor. Andy tugged at Ariana's sleeve. "Is Dr. Harper going to die?" he asked. "I don't know," she replied honestly. And she sounded like she didn't care either way. Andy's face paled. "Mr. Fabiano! Mr. Nottingham!" The warden's cry alerted their attention to the arrival of the highest-ranking prison officers. Mr. Fabiano of the Military Academy and Mr. Nottingham of Sphinx Academy were both spiritual overlords and commanded the same respect as Master Madden. They had come as fast as they could after being alerted to what was going on in the prison, but they arrived as Monty was leaving with Dr. Harper in his arms. "Dr. Harper?" Mr. Fabiano looked uncharacteristically shaken. It was not that he was unused to the sight of blood or the aftermath of a fight. He had seen his fair share of that over the years. No, his concern was purely tactical. Dr. Harper wasn't just the favorite niece of a senior official of the military academy, but, as the only supreme-level medicine refiner between the two schools, she was a vital asset in their drive to defeat Sphinx Academy. "What happened here?" he bellowed, subjecting everyone in turn to his steely glare. Turin and Andy looked at each other in terror. Mr. Fabiano was nicknamed Wild Boar on account of his short temper and ruthless nature. Ariana had picked a fight with the wrong man. The warden, spotting his chances for revenge on the student who had humiliated him, pointed at the girl in the red dress. "It was her! She killed Dr. Harper!" Still cradling his beloved, Monty added his voice to the accusation. "Yes, it was her." "You?" Mr. Fabiano struck out toward Ariana. "Stop!" someone bellowed. To everyone's shock, Mr. Nottingham stepped between them to block the attack. The air was thick with the tension between those two senior officials, now seemingly locked in battle. Mr. Fabiano glowered at his opposite number. "Out of my way!" he roared. The fingers on Mr. Fabiano's right hand clawed the air in the heat of his anger at the student who had dared to attack Dr. Harper. Mr. Nottingham continued to stand in his way, providing Ariana with a human shield. Just as the military academy's senior official had his reasons for wanting to avenge their supreme-level medicine refiner, so did his Sphinx Academy counterpart for defending the girl in the red dress. He had seen her only a few hours before in the Dallas woods. Master Holmes had gathered a group of elders to rescue Ariana from the central region, out of bounds to existing students, but they had arrived to find their assistance was unnecessary. Far from being in danger, they had discovered her in what appeared to be an intimate embrace with the Crown Prince. Mr. Fabiano had been denied the opportunity to witness the scene because the military academy had only seen fit to send Master Harper and Dr. Harper on the rescue mission. Whatever Mr. Nottingham's personal opinion of the relationship between Ariana Grace and Prince Warwick de Cheville, Mr. Holmes had made it clear that the prince's choice was to be respected. Therefore, all possible protection was to be given to the two of them. And the Sphinx Academy prison governor knew better than to argue with his logic. Mr. Fabiano's eyes burned with rage at the man blocking his way. "How long are you going to keep this up?" he asked. "As long as I have to," Mr. Nottingham replied earnestly. "This girl is under the protection of His Royal Highness. Even if she did do something wrong here, it's out of our hands." "Nonsense! And if you won't get out of my way, then you'll have to fight me," Mr. Fabiano insisted. Then, without waiting for a response, he charged at Mr. Nottingham, forcing him to retaliate. As blows rained down on both sides, the onlookers edged away. The prisoners in their cells on either side were whipped by the wind stirred up by the force of the battle between the two spiritual overlords, which showed no sign of abating. Ariana kept her eyes fixed on the two combatants. Studying them, she noticed a slight flaw in Mr. Fabiano's spiritual essence. About a hand's width below his left armpit, there was a patch where the flow of essence became weaker as he fought. Figuring that Mr. Nottingham was unaware of the weak spot, she called out to him, "Under his left arm!" Whether he hadn't heard or chose to ignore her advice, Mr. Nottingham didn't alter his approach. But Mr. Fabiano had heard, and he understood. Her words hit him like a thunderclap. How could she know where my weakness is? Who told her? He wondered. Instinctively, he shielded the area below his left armpit. Such an odd movement, away from the focus of the blows aimed at him, didn't escape the attention of his opponent. Mr. Fabiano, in turn, noted the new target of Mr. Nottingham's attack. Realizing that his only option was to bring a swift conclusion to the fight, he picked up his speed. The Sphinx Academy man was more than equal to the change of pace, and with his counterpart's weak spot confirmed, he fought with renewed vigor. The more the military academy man tried to shield the patch under his left armpit, the more vulnerable he became to attack in other areas where his guard was down. Spurred on by the confirmation of his opponent's weak spot, Mr. Nottingham increased the speed and intensity of his attack, raining punches down at Mr. Fabiano's exposed right side until he was forced to alter his defensive stance. The moment his opponent's left side was exposed, Mr. Nottingham pounced. A single swift strike to the patch a hand's width below his left armpit, and Mr. Fabiano cried out in pain, his face drained of all color. Clutching his side, he doubled over. Ensuring that Ariana remained safely behind him, Mr. Nottingham kept his cold gaze fixed on Mr. Fabiano. He wouldn't put it past the man to lash out at her despite his pain. Sinking to the floor, the military academy man shakily raised his hand to concede defeat. His Sphinx Academy counterpart gratefully accepted the surrender. The fight had never been personal, and whatever the rivalry between their two schools, neither wanted to destroy the other. He looked behind him at the girl in the red dress. He had stepped in to protect her from his counterpart, but he had to wonder whether his assistance had been needed. She had known where his opponent's weak spot is. He hadn't. Trying to regulate his breathing to ease the pain, Mr. Fabiano was similarly bewildered. Seemingly reading their minds, Ariana smiled at the pair. "I'm a semi-divine medicine refiner. I can see the flow of a person's spiritual essence," she explained. Semi-divine medicine refiners were rare. Their ability to detect ailments almost instinctively and refine the medicine necessary to treat them, seemingly bringing them back from the dead, gave them godlike status. For anyone to make such a claim about themselves was outrageous. To hear the claim made by a young student was beyond belief for everyone gathered in that prison wing. After a shocked silence, the muttering began. "Here she goes again. Will she ever stop bragging? I might just about have believed her if she had claimed to be a supreme-level medicine refiner, but this is ridiculous, even for her." Struggling to his feet and still smarting from his defeat, Mr. Fabiano caught sight of Dr. Harper, still lying limply in Monty McCall's arms, and was filled with renewed rage. "What about her?" he demanded of Ariana. "Did you kill her?" "She tried to kill me," Ariana replied. "What I did was self-defense." Mr. Fabiano snorted and turned to the warden. "Is that true?" he asked. The warden shook his head. "No." "What weapon did I use?" Ariana asked him. He opened his mouth to answer, but then quickly thought better of it when he saw that everyone was looking at the only weapon in the room. In the middle of the corridor, where it had lain since Dr. Harper was injured, was a soft-bladed sword bearing the Harper family emblem, which the doctor had drawn from around her waist. "That one." The warden reluctantly motioned toward the sword. Mr. Fabiano paled, sensing that he had been outplayed. Ariana, in contrast, struck out as a confident figure, her hands behind her back as she turned to face the warden, a polite smile easing across her face. "For the benefit of those who weren't here to witness it, who drew the weapon first?" she asked. and I would remind you that these other people were here." She swept her arm around to indicate the people in the corridor and the prisoners watching intently from their cells. "They will all tell the truth, even if you don't," she said. Looking around and mindful of his mistreatment of the watching prisoners, the warden realized that he would receive no support for anything other than the truth of what had happened. "She's so devious," he thought. "She probably picked this place deliberately." With Mr. Fabiano's eyes boring into him, the warden had no option but to answer Ariana's question. "Dr. Harper attacked first." "And why did Dr. Harper attack me with her sword?" Ariana asked coolly. Seeing a chance to appease his military academy boss, the warden seized on an accusation. "Because you were instigating a prison break." He was deflated when Ariana simply raised her eyebrows. "A prison break, you say?" She turned to face the others, who were hanging on every word of this courtroom or prison house drama. "Let's examine that more closely," she continued. "What do we mean by a prison break? I'm sure you'll all accept that it means helping convicted criminals escape prison through forcible means." "Is that what I did?" she asked. The warden ground his teeth. "You stole my keys." Ariana laughed. "Isn't responsibility as a warden to guard the keys?" The warden blushed. "And have I used those keys?" "Maybe not yet," Mr. Fabiano said. "But you were going to, and you would have done had you not been interrupted. You took the keys by force, intending to assist in the escape of a prisoner. Do you deny that?" "Yes, I do." From among the watching students and prisoners came a snicker. Mr. Fabiano's eyes flashed in annoyance at the interruption before he resumed his interrogation of Ariana. "Why is that?" Ariana looked back at the warden. "You remember the definition of prison break, I'm sure. Repeat it for me." The warden reluctantly complied. "Helping convicted criminals escape prison through forcible means." "Well done. You see, Mr. Fabiano, even the warden knows the answer. Why don't you?" Wrong-footed, Mr. Fabiano stared at Ariana. A hush fell over the prison corridor as everyone waited to hear how the battle of wits would play out. Mr. Nottingham surveyed the protagonists. At the center of the scene, Ariana radiated confidence. When Master Holmes had called on him and his fellow elders to rescue a student trapped in the dayless woods, he had dismissed her as reckless and resented her for dragging them all out there. When he had seen her clinging to Prince Warwick, he had doubted the Crown Prince's wisdom in his choice of partner. And when he had seen how severely she had injured Dr. Harper, he had reached the limit of his patience. However, the way she had conducted herself since his arrival confounded those initial impressions. While he still retained some doubts about her, Ariana had shown herself to be intelligent, calm, and clear-headed. Standing opposite her, and despite far outranking her, Mr. Fabiano looked ill at ease and flustered. Unaware that she was the subject of such scrutiny, Ariana maintained her cool gaze as she waited for the military academy man to respond. "Perhaps you missed what the warden told you," Ariana prompted. "A prison break, and that is the offense of which I have been accused and the justification given for Dr. Harper's attack on me, refers to helping convicted criminals escape prison through forcible means." Convicted criminals. She repeated. Remember that phrase. She then motioned to Andy to set Axel free from his cell. Keeping his eyes warily on Mr. Fabiano, Andy complied with the request. Axel was a perceptive student and had spent enough time with Ariana to see her plan. As he was helped from his cell, he made sure to exaggerate the effect of his injuries, stumbling and clinging on to Andy as he almost dragged him to join the group in the corridor. "Captain Axel, what did they do to you?" Andy examined with growing alarm the whip marks and blood-stained clothing of his Dynasty team captain. Had he known that Ariana had given Axel a bottle of Supreme-level pills while they were in the Dayless Woods, which had protected him against the worst effects of his injuries, he might not have been able to provide such a convincing performance. Mr. Fabiano pointed furiously toward Axel. "He was locked up in a prison cell. Surely that makes him a prisoner. And you've just freed him with the keys you stole." Ariana laughed. "For the leading official of this jail, you aren't very smart," she said. A vein visibly throbbed on the military academy man's temple. Had it not been for the continuing pain beneath his left armpit, he would have struck out at her for such insubordination. "You called Axel a prisoner. Warden, perhaps you could tell us what you understand by that term." The warden panicked at being thrust back into the spotlight and glanced at Mr. Fabiano. He received no support from that quarter. "Speak, man!" "A prisoner is someone who is serving a sentence in prison because they've been convicted of breaking the law." "Thank you. An excellent definition," she said. The warden blushed at the compliment and relaxed, feeling that his part was finally over. "So, what law did my friend break?" Ariana asked him. "What was his sentence? Why is he serving it? Why was he whipped?" The warden shuddered and cast around the group, searching for someone who would support him. But Monty had carried Dr. Harper away, and with her, his last ally. She had been the one who told them to lock the boy up and torture him. He didn't dare speak out against her. In the absence of any response, Ariana fixed Mr. Fabiano with a saccharine smile. "What an interesting facility you have here," she said. "You lock up and torture people without reason. Does that mean you can drag people here and kill them just because you don't like them?" Mr. Fabiano reddened. "It's not what you think." "It isn't? It's certainly what it sounds like. Your warden seems unable to explain what my friend here did to be locked up and whipped." Desperate to refute Ariana's accusation of corruption, Mr. Fabiano turned to his hapless warden. "If you won't speak up, go and fetch one of your men to explain it." The warden panicked. Any one of his team would likely buckle when confronted with the head of the prison. Reasoning that Dr. Harper must have died from the injury inflicted by Ariana and would therefore not be coming after him, he decided he could no longer cover for her. "It was Dr. Harper. She told us to lock that boy up," the warden replied. "And what about his wounds?" Ariana asked, motioning toward Axel's whip marks and clothes. "They're her doing too. She told us to torture and interrogate him." The warden spoke with increasing boldness. "Yes, it was all down to Dr. Harper. She gave the order." "And the interrogation?" Ariana continued her questioning. "What were you trying to get out of him?" The warden hesitated. "Answer me." "Nothing. Dr. Harper said Axel was your minion." The warden replied. not daring to make eye contact. "She said we should break his leg just to teach you a lesson." Ariana fought back her fury. "So what crime did Axel commit?" she asked once again. The warden looked pleadingly at Mr. Fabiano, hoping he would intervene. "Come on!" Ariana demanded. "It's a simple enough question." Seeing that his boss had no intention of stepping in, the warden was left with no choice. "Dr. Harper said Axel slandered Prince Warwick de Cheville." "And how did he do that?" Ariana asked innocently. The warden cringed at the question and mumbled his answer. "He said His Royal Highness adores you, and you're going to marry him." Mr. Fabiano broke the silence that followed and addressed Ariana. "Well, what do you have to say to that? Does he adore you? Are you going to marry him?" There was an audible gasp, and all eyes turned to Ariana. What would she, could she, say? The implications weren't lost on those present. If she said yes, then Axel hadn't slandered the crown prince. If no, then the charge against him would likely stick. Mr. Fabiano looked hopeful. Surely Dr. Harper, and by extension, what went on in his prison, was about to be vindicated. "I don't know if this young lady is the Crown Prince's future wife, but—" Mr. Nottingham started, but he was quickly stopped by a sharp look from his opposite number. "Sorry, Mr. Fabiano," he continued. "You didn't go to the Dayless Woods last night, did you?" "That's right," a voice behind them confirmed. Everyone turned to see the new arrival. Master Holmes was standing at the entrance to the prison corridor. He turned his attention to the military academy's senior prison official. "I gave the order to Master Harper, but your school didn't see fit to send any elders." Mr. Fabiano was taken aback. "What order?" "Prince Warwick left the fortress to confront Mr. Paganis in the central region. Before he set out, he told all the elders to assemble there in support. Didn't Master Harper tell you?" Mr. Fabiano's stomach lurched. Ignoring a request from the Crown Prince would be bad enough, but this had been a command. Mr. Fabiano struggled to digest the information. Why would Master Harper have ignored the Crown Prince's order to send all the elders to support him in the Dayless Woods? "Everybody who did go," Master Holmes explained, "knows fully well how His Royal Highness feels about Ariana. We all saw that they wouldn't let go of each other." Seemingly oblivious to Ariana's blushes, he continued, "And after we left, they spent the night alone. They were holding hands when they returned this morning, and quite openly, too. Ask around, and you'll be in no doubt as to their relationship." Acting more like a proud father than a school elder, he faced Ariana. "Isn't that right, kid?" She felt her blushes deepening. Mr. Fabiano was thunderstruck. Future wife or not, it seemed he could no longer deny that Ariana was involved with the Crown Prince. That being so, Axel Leone had done nothing wrong. And, it pained him to admit it even to himself, Dr. Harper had abused her power. Desperate to cling to any shred of credibility, he fixed Ariana with a steely glare. "As it has been made clear to me, I was prevented from witnessing any of that. So let's look at it another way. You said you're a semi-divine medicine refiner, so prove it," he challenged. "If you can prove that, Then I'll believe that His Royal Highness has feelings for you." As if keen for the drama to continue, everyone eagerly turned their attention back to the girl in the red dress. "Okay." Ariana was relieved at the opportunity to satisfy the man's need for proof, without having to admit to there being any feelings between her and the Crown Prince. Heavy, angry footsteps shook the floor. The disappointed muttering caused by the interruption of proceedings fizzled out as, one by one, the group took in the sight. Standing at the entrance to the prison corridor was Master Harper, and in her arms, appearing lifeless, was her niece, Dr. Harper. Master Holmes's heart sank, and he wondered if Dr. Harper was dead. If that were the case, he knew they would have much bigger problems on their hands. At that thought, he stepped forward and shielded Ariana from Master Harper's wrath. She glared at him with disgust in her eyes. "Out of my way!" she bellowed. He shook his head and said, "Sorry, I can't do that." She put Dr. Harper in Monty's arms, and then she pushed Master Holmes out of her way. Master Holmes panicked because he thought of Ariana as a treasure, both to the Crown Prince and to Sphinx Academy. He couldn't allow anything to happen to her. He reached out and dragged the girl closer, pulling her behind him. Master Harper gritted her teeth. "Ariana, look what you've done!" she screamed. "What did I do?" Ariana asked innocently. Master Harper glared at her and took a deep breath. She had to control her rage. Otherwise, her niece would die. "You almost killed her!" she shouted at the girl. "Are you going to deny that?" Ariana seemed surprised. "You should get your facts straight. I was only defending myself, and all these people can testify to that. I'll have you thrown in jail if you keep slandering me. After all, that's what Dr. Harper did to Axel," she said. Master Holmes nodded in agreement and said, "Ariana, don't admit to things you didn't do. If someone tries to make you say otherwise, I'll fight to the death for you. And don't worry, even if I'm dead, His Royal Highness will protect you. He adores you." Ariana blushed at his kind comment, but didn't say anything. Master Harper took in a sharp breath, annoyed that the Sphinx Elder had brought up the prince. She had tried to intimidate the girl with her power, but she realized that Ariana had the Crown Prince's support behind her. Many people had seen what had happened in the Dayless Woods, and Master Harper knew that word would get out soon enough. Mr. Fabiano looked at Master Harper, hoping to hear her reject the claim that the prince had feelings for the girl. He figured Master Harper had been to the Dayless Woods and knew better. However, when she didn't say a word to contradict Master Holmes's statement, Mr. Fabiano sighed. "Master Holmes must be right. Ariana is the Crown Prince's treasure," he thought. Master Harper shot Mr. Fabiano a look when he heard his audible disappointment. She knew he was upset with Master Holmes's observation. Since she knew it was true, she decided to reason with Ariana. "Okay, fine. We'll forget about your crime for the time being. Self-defense or not, you must admit you inflicted that wound on Dr. Harper's neck, don't you?" "Hey, lady, quit making things up. I didn't do anything," Ariana retorted. Master Harper's eyes widened at her disrespectful tone. "This girl is so frustrating," she thought. "What's the matter with the Crown Prince? Why doesn't he favor a nice girl like my niece instead of this monster? She took a few deep breaths to control her rage. However, her cheeks still trembled with anger. Fine. You don't need to take responsibility, but you must help Dakota now, Master Harper commanded. That was her real objective. Help her? Ariana parroted. She narrowed her eyes at Master Harper and said, You're unbelievable. You want me to save Dr. Harper? She wanted Master Harper to admit that Ariana had remarkable medical skills. Everyone else was surprised by Master Harper's demand because they didn't believe Ariana was capable of saving anyone. They had no idea that she was a semi-divine medicine refiner. Master Harper stared at Ariana and replied coldly, Yes, you must save her. Ariana shook her head. I don't think that'll happen, she said. Master Harper glared at her. Are you just going to stand there and watch her die? She asked. Of course not. But isn't Dr. Harper the only supreme-level medicine refiner in the fortress? Ariana said innocently. Her words sent Master Harper's rage to a new level. And to make it worse, the others all agreed with Ariana. What can Ariana possibly do? Mr. Fabiano interjected. Everyone nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Master Holmes stood proudly as he watched Ariana defend herself. The more time he spent with her, the more he realized how strong and intelligent she was. He was impressed. Master Harper has always been such an arrogant woman, but Ariana just painted her into a corner. I've never seen her admit she was wrong before, he thought as he smirked. Master Harper had never been so humiliated. But to save her niece, she had to put her pride aside. What will it take to get you to treat her? She mumbled, hoping no one would hear her besides Ariana. But I don't have the proper skill, the girl replied. Cut it out. You're a semi-divine medicine refiner, and no one can change that. Master Harper interrupted. Everybody stared at her in astonishment. Master Holmes was thrilled to hear Master Harper's affirmation, but Mr. Fabiano was very confused. A semi-divine medicine refiner? Ariana? She hasn't even graduated yet. Isn't she just a young girl? He thought. Only moments ago, he had asked Ariana to prove she was a semi-divine medicine refiner. That can't be true, he said. You're incorrect, Mr. Fabiano. It is a fact, Master Harper exclaimed as she stared at him. I was there when she made the semi-divine potion. Not a pill, but a potion. Do you know what that means? Mr. Fabiano went to refute her claims, but Master Harper ignored him. She turned to Ariana and shouted, Do you deny you're a semi-divine medicine refiner? All eyes were on Ariana. Her friends were especially shocked. They knew that if it was true, they had just made a very powerful ally. They couldn't contain their excitement and began nodding at each other with satisfied grins on their faces. Ariana sighed but didn't respond. Instead, she turned to Master Harper and said, You're an important school official on the same level as Master Holmes. Do you see how well-behaved his students are compared to yours? Master Harper was enraged by Ariana's accusations. I'm a senior official at the military academy, and Ariana is a measly student at an inferior school, she thought. How dare she talk to me like that? I can't believe this twit thinks she can disrespect me. Master Harper took a deep breath. She had to swallow her rage and continue to beg Ariana for help. However, her tone didn't soften at all. "Ariana, are you going to help her or not?" she snapped. "If you refuse, I'll go to the schoolmasters. I'll even go to General Victor Grace. You won't be so self-righteous then." Ariana cackled. Does she know the general is my godfather? She wondered. There was no way Master Harper was more connected than Ariana. She even had the king's protection. She was about to bite back, but when she saw Dr. Harper and her neck, she felt sorry for the woman. Ariana was too kind to watch somebody die in front of her. She sucked her teeth and muttered, "I guess I can help her." "Do it now!" Master Harper screamed. Ariana shrugged, tilted her head, and extended her hand. "What? What are you waiting for? Why are you showing me your hand?" Master Harper shrieked. With a nod, Ariana motioned to her open palm and said, "Pay up." Master Harper screeched, "What? Do you think you can use the services of a semi-divine medicine refiner for free? I'm not that kind," she said casually, pointing to her palm. Master Harper hadn't expected Ariana to demand payment for her services. "You don't sound like a Sphinx Academy student at all," Master Harper said. "I thought your school was too proud to accept payment for services." Ariana looked over at Master Holmes. He looked away, scratching his head. He gave Master Harper a sideways glare and thought, "Sure, she just had to bring that up now." Ariana noticed Master Holmes's reluctance and quickly became frustrated. Too proud to accept payment? Without money, how does the school support itself? She wondered. Ariana grabbed Master Holmes's sleeve and dragged him to the side. She lowered her voice as she asked, "How many mines do we have? And what about the military academy?" Master Holmes looked at her in bewilderment and asked, "How do you know we have mines?" Ariana glared at him. "Now isn't the time to beat around the bush," she said. Master Holmes shook his head in frustration and admitted, "They have 4, and we have only one very old one." Ariana stared at him in shock. Master Holmes stammered, "They've been luckier than us." Ariana waved her hand in his face and walked back over to Master Harper, sticking out 2 fingers. Master Harper frowned. "You want 20,000 essence crystals?" she asked. Ariana grinned and motioned to the sky with her thumb. "More? 200,000? Master Harper inquired. Everybody was shocked that she had asked for such an exorbitant price. It was going to cost Master Harper and her school a small fortune to save her niece. Turin and Andy were awestruck. When they explored the outer layer, they would consider themselves very lucky to have found 1 or 2 essence crystals in one trip. They were very humble, so they couldn't believe how brazen Ariana's request was. Andy and Turin quietly embraced, even though they wanted to shout it from the rooftops. As Sphinx Academy students, they knew how poor their school was. Each essence crystal meant a lot to them. The military academy was much wealthier, and they had always envied them. Master Holmes was even more excited than they were. As a senior school official, he knew their financial situation. The school barely had enough money to give out rewards. The prizes at the exchange center came from the Mystic Kingdom's gold vault. Both schools had their properties, such as the mines. The military academy had 4 mines of various sizes, which was where their masters and students cultivated. Those mines helped students to graduate faster so that they could go to the middle ring to look for essence crystals. It was a very efficient arrangement. Without such resources, Sphinx Academy was impoverished. When Master Holmes heard about how many essence crystals Ariana demanded, he was ecstatic. "What a clever girl," he thought. On the other hand, Master Harper was furious. She gritted her teeth. "I can't believe you're requesting 200,000 essence crystals," she said. But to her surprise, Ariana shook her head. Master Harper was utterly confused. She wasn't sure what Ariana wanted, but her patience was wearing thin. She glared at the girl and said, "How many crystals do you want then, Ariana?" "Who told you that was what I wanted?" Ariana replied. Master Harper sighed and threw her hands up. "Then why did you stick out 2 fingers?" she asked. Ariana raised her eyebrows and said calmly, "I'm talking about essence crystal mines." Her voice was loud enough for everybody to hear. They sucked in their breaths. Turin turned to Andy and asked, "What did Ariana say? Essence crystal mines? Did she say mines? Did I mishear her?" Andy shook his head and motioned at his friend to stay quiet as he stared at Ariana. Everyone did. Master Holmes was astonished. She couldn't utter a single word. Ariana crossed her arms with a calm smile on her face, awaiting her reply. "It hurts," Dr. Harper groaned. She was still in Monty's arms. Her bleeding hadn't stopped. If she wasn't treated, she would eventually bleed out. Master Harper looked over at her niece, and then she looked down at the ground as if she was calculating the cost in her head. Her head shot up as she glared at Ariana. "There's no way I'll agree to that," she exclaimed. Ariana said indifferently, I see." Master Harper said, "Ask for something else." Ariana said succinctly, "Not gonna happen." Master Harper scowled. "Ariana, do you know what you're talking about?" she asked. "Yes, I know," Ariana replied. Master Harper looked like her head was about to explode. "Aren't you afraid that the general will hear about this outlandish demand?" the elder muttered. Ariana shrugged. "Do you think you have a better patron than I do?" she challenged. Master Harper was speechless. She was incredulous that the girl would mention her patron in public. Ariana was referring to the general, but Master Harper thought she was talking about the crown prince. Master Harper ignored her request and said, "I can give you 200,000 essence crystals." Turin's eyes widened. Does she have that many essence crystals? He wondered. Master Holmes and the others stared at Ariana in excitement. He wanted to tell Ariana that what Master Harper offered was enough and that she should agree to the terms. However, Ariana's demeanor was so intimidating that no one dared move closer. Even Master Harper was dwarfed in comparison. She had never felt so frustrated before. Ariana shook her head. 200,000 essence crystals? Is that all Dr. Harper's life is worth to you? Master Harper glared at Ariana. "I'll never give you 2 mines," she bellowed. Ariana said, "I see." She was stoic and wouldn't budge. Master Harper took a few deep breaths. She felt both angry and helpless. Just then, Monty cried out, "Dakota, are you okay? Something's happening." Everyone looked over to see the doctor convulsing and white foam gathering around her mouth. Ariana glanced at her and sighed. "I see you're going to miss out on the last chance to save her." Master Harper screamed, "Are you still not going to help her?" "I'm a semi-divine medicine refiner. I have my price," Ariana replied coldly. Master Harper fought back her rage. "One mind! I won't give you anything else!" The crowd went wild. Turin and his friends couldn't begin to imagine how many essence crystals there were in the mine. They only knew that the school was going to be rich. Master Holmes was the only who knew how many essence crystals they could get out of a mine, and he was utterly stunned. The school officials had tried everything, but couldn't obtain a mine. However, Ariana had just gotten them a new one all on her own. Not only could you find numerous crystals in a mine, but they were important because students could improve their cultivation of them. Inside a mine, one could make twice the progress in half the time. After Master Harper promised Ariana a mine, everybody from the military academy became irate. The mines belonged to the school, so they weren't Master Harper's personal property. She wouldn't be allowed to give one away easily, or so they thought. Ariana frowned. "One mine? I don't think that's enough," she told Master Harper. Master Holmes was almost in tears. He wanted to grab Ariana's arm and tell her it was plenty. One mine would add considerable wealth to Sphinx Academy's portfolio. Meanwhile, Mr. Fabiano stepped forward and asked, "Master Harper, how can we give a mine away? That doesn't sound appropriate." She ignored him and stared at Ariana. "One mine. If you accept it, I'll give it to you. If not, you will let Dr. Harper die. If that happens, the military academy will bear Sphinx Academy an irreconcilable grudge, and I won't stop until the Grace family is destroyed." Ariana smiled at her. "Are you threatening me now?" she replied. Master Harper said calmly, "No, I'm telling you the facts, and I'm begging you to help my niece." Master Holmes tugged at Ariana's sleeve and whispered, "Hey, you should take the offer while you can. She can't give us 2 mines. Her school will kill her for that." If the military academy fired Master Harper, Sphinx Academy wouldn't get anything. The mines weren't Master Harper's personal property to give away. Ariana was angry that her entire request wasn't going to be fulfilled, but she knew one mine was already an excellent deal. She nodded and said, "Fine, 1 mine then. Master Holmes, you should seal the deal now." Master Harper shook her head. "Save my niece first," she ordered. "I'll do it while you sign the paperwork to hand over the mine," Ariana hissed. She didn't want Master Harper to go back on her word after she saved the doctor. Master Harper was furious, but when she saw that her niece was barely breathing, she had no choice but to seal the deal. Mr. Fabiano tried to intervene, but when he saw the state Dr. Harper was in, he decided not to say anything. He knew that if he opposed the idea and Dr. Harper died, Master Harper would blame everything on him, and he didn't want to take that responsibility. He gestured at a guard to sneak out and deliver the message to the other masters. Ariana walked up to Dr. Harper. Monty glared at her, but she didn't even look at him. She took out an ointment and asked him to put it on the wound on the doctor's neck. Once that was done, he asked, "What's next?" She replied, "What do you mean?" He frowned. "How should we treat her next?" he asked. Ariana glanced at Master Harper and saw that she was still in the middle of signing the contract. So she sat down and said indifferently, "Just wait." He said angrily, "Is that how a semi-divine medicine refiner should behave? Don't you know the importance of saving lives?" Ariana raised her eyebrows. "I see you finally accept that I'm a semi-divine medicine refiner," she observed. Monty was speechless. If Ariana had been a more advanced semi-divine medicine refiner, Monty would have worshipped her as if she was an immortal being. He would probably have knelt at her feet. Instead, he was disrespectful. He couldn't help but see her as an ordinary girl and forgot who she was. However, he had no choice but to fight back his frustration, because she was the only one who could save Dr. Harper's life. Before long, Master Holmes approached Ariana, waving some paperwork at her. He said excitedly, "Can you believe it?" When she saw how happy he was, Ariana raised an eyebrow and asked, "I'll take it that you've sealed the deal?" "Yes, it's done. Mine number 3 is ours," he said. "I know it's the worst of the 4 mines, but—" Ariana interrupted and asked, "What? You accepted the worst mine?" He said, "Well—" Ariana checked the paperwork and saw that mine was the worst one. She rolled her eyes at him. She said, "I see money indeed means very little to you." He blushed, but he hadn't been able to bring himself to ask for more. He felt they didn't deserve that mine because he figured that Ariana had inflicted the wound on Dr. Harper. "You can forget your guilt. Do you see Dr. Harper's symptoms? Does she look like she's been poisoned?" she said. "Yes, she does," he said as he nodded. "Well, that sword belongs to Dr. Harper herself," she revealed. "What?" he cried out as he finally realized the truth. "She put poison on her blade. She wanted to kill you." Ariana nodded. "It doesn't take much for a supreme-level medicine refiner to neutralize the poison," she added. Master Holmes lost his temper. "She tried to poison you, and you're still helping her. If I'd known, I would have never let her off the hook so easily." She rolled her eyes at him again. "It's not over yet. After she recovers, she'll try her best to kill me." "She wouldn't dare," he replied. She said, "She'll never stop trying until she's dead. Ask Master Harper. She'll tell you what her niece is like." Master Holmes looked at Master Harper for confirmation, but the older woman feigned ignorance. He bellowed, "If she's like that, we don't need to help her at all." "We need the mine, don't we? Don't worry. If she attacks me again, I'll beat her until she's barely alive, and we'll demand another mine. She'll be like our renewable energy source," Ariana said as she chuckled. Master Holmes immediately calmed down. However, Master Harper was anything but calm. Her face darkened, and her cold glare landed on Ariana. She could hear the threat in the girl's tone, and at that moment, She was sure that if Dr. Harper offended Ariana again, she would carry out her word. Needless to say, Master Harper was frustrated. She watched Ariana and Master Holmes as they were deep in conversation. Ariana reminded him, "There's no time to get angry now. You should get to work." He carefully rolled up the paper and put it in his sleeve. "What do you mean?" he asked. She sighed. "Don't you realize Mr. Fabiano has slipped away? Where do you think he's going?" she asked. Master Holmes furrowed his brow as he wondered, where did he go? Although Master Holmes didn't know what Ariana was talking about when she said he should go back to work, Mr. Nottingham certainly did. He and Mr. Fabiano had worked together for many years and knew each other all too well. "He didn't go to mine number 3, did he?" Mr. Nottingham asked incredulously. Master Holmes's heart sank when he realized that was a possibility. Ariana suspected that was indeed where Mr. Fabiano had dashed off to. She looked Master Holmes in the eye and nodded. He wondered how the girl knew so much. Ariana added, "If they remove the essence crystals from the mine in advance." "They can't do that!" Master Holmes shouted. She narrowed her eyes. That was their rival's plan. How could she know what the military academy members were up to? Master Holmes wondered. As if she was reading his mind, she said, "I know how malicious people can be." Without another word, Master Holmes ran off. Mr. Nottingham also quickly left to find some other Sphinx Academy officials. They had to guard their riches since mine number 3 now belonged to their school. When Master Holmes arrived at the mine, the area was swarming with military academy officials. They were trying to move things out. He was infuriated. He deduced it had probably been Master Harper's plan when she signed over ownership of the mine. "She's so cunning," he said under his breath. When he had drawn up the contract to transfer the mine to Sphinx Academy ownership, he hadn't wanted to take too much from the military academy. He had chosen the worst mine purposefully, and he couldn't believe that was how they repaid his generosity. He charged at them and took out the paperwork. "Nobody touches a thing!" he screamed as he waved the contract at them. The next moment, the Sphinx Academy school officials finally arrived. They were all dumbfounded by what they saw, especially Master Madden. They had just returned from the Dayless Woods and were on their way to cultivate when they received the order to guard mine number 3. "Isn't that the military academy's mine? Why should we guard it?" Master Madden had wondered at the time. He was shocked when he heard Master Holmes announce that it was now in their possession. Mine number 3 had been discovered many years previously, and it was located to the southwest of the fortress. The military academy had used it to help progress so many of their capable members. As a result, they had 10,000 more spiritual overlords than Sphinx Academy. The Sphinx Academy officials had always been envious of them, so they were elated to learn that mine number 3 had been signed over to them. Mr. Nottingham filled them in on all the details, explaining that Ariana had won it from Master Harper. Some of their attitudes quickly turned sour. They were still untrusting of Ariana because they had heard so many terrible things about her. Mr. Nottingham saw how upset his colleagues were, and he realized it was only Master Madden who seemed to have a good impression of Ariana. Mr. Nottingham felt that Ariana had made a great contribution to Sphinx Academy. He wanted to convince the others that she was a valuable member of their organization. Originally, he had only briefly described what had happened, but he began to explain in detail how Ariana had outwitted Master Harper until the esteemed elder was practically on her hands and knees begging for help. When he finished telling them everything, they were dumbfounded. Even Master Madden, who knew Ariana well, couldn't believe what he heard. "We obtained a new mine just like that. She made it seem too easy," he thought. They weren't the only ones who were surprised. The military academy officials were also shocked when they overheard Mr. Nottingham's recount. "Did you see the new student at my school? She's amazing. Do you have anyone as good as she? Do you?" he boasted. The military academy officials started mumbling. They couldn't accept what had happened because the news was hard to swallow. However, with the paperwork signed, there was nothing they could do. They would never forget Ariana's name again. Mr. Nottingham smiled at the military academy school officials as he asked them to leave. They had been scheduled to cultivate at mine number 3 that day, and they were about to begin when they found that the mine had been transferred to their competitor. They didn't know how to vent their frustration. "If you want an explanation, I suggest you go to Master Harper," said Master Holmes. They took his advice and marched directly toward Master Harper's residence. As he watched them walk away, Master Madden said, "I think she's going to be in a lot of trouble." Mr. Nottingham nodded his head and smiled. "I wonder if she'll know when to stop." If she wouldn't stop and kept making trouble, Ariana would probably profit from it again. They almost hoped it would happen. Meanwhile, after the masters had left the prison, Ariana was also getting ready to leave. As Ariana walked toward the exit, Master Harper grabbed her arm and growled, "You are a piece of work." Ariana stopped and smiled at her. "Are you threatening the only semi-divine medicine refiner in the fortress and kingdom?" Master Harper was irate. She felt her cheeks burn with anger. No one could change the fact that Ariana was a semi-divine medicine refiner. Ariana yanked her arm from her grip and left with a few of her friends. As she exited the building, a thought struck her. She turned to Andy and said, "Don't forget to bring it along." All he could think of was the mine, so when he heard Ariana, he asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" "The bag with the badges," Ariana reminded him. Andy had grown tired from standing, so he had sat down on the bag. He had forgotten all about it when he got up to leave. Andy, Turin, and the others had been so riled up when Ariana led them to the prison to break Axel free that they had completely forgotten what was in the bag. Andy had even forgotten why he had to carry it around with them. He only remembered that Ariana felt it was essential. Still, he hadn't been too concerned when he sat on the bag to rest. When she reminded him to bring the bag, he sighed and grabbed it. As he slung it over his shoulder, he asked, "So, where to next?" The others all looked at her. They didn't have a specific destination and were curious about where she planned to take them. "To the exchange center," she smiled and said. Suddenly, she recalled what had happened after she and Jake were given the badges. There had been too many to fit in the sack, so she had given some to him and Pete. Despite their prestigious backgrounds, They had to work their way up in the military ranks, just like everybody else. They were both commanders, and the badges Ariana gave them could help them rise to become senior colonels. Ariana had even asked Jake about Warwick's rank. He had rolled his eyes at her and asked her if she thought the prince needed any help if he was able to kill the Blue Kingdom's spiritual saints. That was when Jake told her that Warwick held the highest military rank attainable. After exchanging envious looks with Jake, the conversation ended. Lost deep in thought, Ariana now chuckled at her naivete. Of course Prince Warwick is the best. How could I have questioned it? She wondered. She sighed. She could have kept all the badges for herself, but she didn't think it was practical. Not only could one rise by just so many ranks at a time, but she couldn't be that selfish. She wanted her friends to grow with her, so she made the most reasonable arrangements and helped the others as best as she could. The others were perplexed when Ariana mentioned the exchange center, though. Andy was the first to raise the question. Why the exchange center? We're all students, and we don't have enough points to exchange for anything, he said. Axel, Turin, and Andy began to talk over each other, trying to sort out their confusion. The others stood quietly as they patiently awaited Ariana's explanation. Surprised by their confusion, she said, Okay, guys, quiet down. Don't you want to graduate soon? They all thought they were far from ready to graduate. Andy asked, What makes you think we're going to graduate soon? I think Captain Axel is there, but as for the rest of us, he trailed off and twisted his mouth in embarrassment. Axel shook his head and replied, To graduate, we'll need at least 30,000 points, and I only have 20,000. I have a long way to go. I'll work hard in the outer ring after I recover. I want to graduate as quickly as possible. The others lowered their heads. They knew that if Axel needed at least another year, graduating would be even harder for them. Ariana smiled but didn't tell them what she had planned for them. Ariana and her friends soon arrived at the exchange center. It was the only exchange center in the fortress, and cultivators of all levels, including spiritual overlords, went there to redeem points. Because it was the only exchange center around, it was always crowded. The entire building was devoted solely to exchange services and nothing else. The military ranks were exchanged in the eastern wing of the building, while goods and commodities were exchanged in the western wing. There were dozens of people in the lobby, each with their specific purpose for being there. Before Ariana could make her way to the eastern wing of the building, she heard someone call out her name. She stopped and turned to see who it was. Hey, isn't it Ariana? The person said excitedly. Ariana looked up and saw that it was Brunhilde, a past senior of the Sphinx Academy. What an unfortunate coincidence, Ariana thought as she cursed her luck. But in actuality, it wasn't a coincidence at all. Brunhilde had been bored lately, and when she heard that Ariana was headed for the exchange center, she also decided to go there to see if she could get revenge on her rival. Axel had forced Brunhilde to sign a waiver stating that she would not take any of the badges Ariana gave out. Brunhilde was furious about it and blamed Ariana for what Axel did. Since people came to the exchange center after returning from the woods to redeem the points all the time, she knew that it was the right place to gather information on an enemy. During her stay there, waiting for news of Ariana, she made a new friend. Her name was Chrissy Cunningham, and she was a current student at the Sphinx Academy and a level 3 spiritual king. Brunhilde never saw current students as equals. To her, they were all insignificant and worthless until they graduated, so she hadn't thought much of Chrissy initially. The only thing that bonded them was their hatred for Ariana. On that particular day, Brunhilde and Chrissy were hanging out in the lobby with their arms joined, bonding over their favorite topic, criticizing Ariana. After the long wait, Brunhilde finally saw Ariana and was shocked to see her alive. The whole reason she had gone to the exchange was to make sure her enemy was dead. Chrissy's face also darkened when she saw her arch-enemy was still alive and well. Over the past few days, Chrissy had begun to believe Brunhilde's lies and was convinced that Ariana had died in the woods. It was indeed nothing short of a miracle that Ariana had made it out of the woods alive. Ariana, on the other hand, was also surprised, as it hadn't crossed her mind that she might meet the two girls there either. "It's you," Ariana said indifferently before she ignored them and tried to walk away. She turned to Andy and said, "Let's find a corner to open the sack so we can split the things inside." "The sack?" Chrissy and Brunhilde murmured simultaneously before they looked curiously at the bag draped over Andy's shoulder. Ariana took the sack from Andy. She didn't want to draw too much attention to the items in it, so she had chosen an old sack that was no better than a rag. The fabric was so worn out that it looked like it was from the previous century. "Did you pick that sack up in the dayless woods?" Brunhilde asked in a disgusted tone as she pointed to the sack. Ariana nodded and replied, "Yes, it's full of badges I found near the Spider King's territory." Brunhilde laughed so hard she almost teared up. She retorted, "Ariana, you're such a loser." Ariana was perplexed, but had met her fair share of bullies, so she knew not to take her taunts seriously. Brunhilde continued, "Did you carry this sack around in the dayless woods like the little beggar you are and plead for other people's protection? Is that how you got out?" Ariana remained quiet for a while before attempting to respond. But before she could say anything, Chrissy chuckled and added sarcastically, "Dear Brunhilde, don't say such things. Ariana's very sensitive and you'll hurt her feelings." Brunhilde chuckled and retorted, "This idiot doesn't even deserve to be called a girl. She's so ugly, my eyes hurt just looking at her." After she said that, she and Chrissy let out villainous laughs. Ariana found their reaction rather idiotic. However, it didn't seem like Brunhilde was going to stop anytime soon. She raised her voice when she saw that Ariana wasn't planning to talk back to her. She looked around, searching for a partner to join her in embarrassing Ariana, and she found just the person she needed. "Finian, over here!" she called out as she waved her hand. Word had reached anybody keen on listening to gossip that Brunhilde was going to meet Ariana at the exchange center, and a lot of people went there to watch and satisfy their curiosity. But many of Ariana's acquaintances and allies also went to see her, including several of the military academy's first team members. They were thrilled to see Ariana, and Cynthia immediately rushed over and hugged her. Ariana asked in a concerned tone, "Are you getting better?" Cynthia had been severely injured the last time they had met. However, She had fully recovered, thanks to Ariana. So she nodded and replied, "I'm all right now. Thank you for saving my life." Ariana smiled and said, "Don't worry about it." Brunhilde didn't like the sound of people praising her rival, so she asked, "Ariana, did you help Cynthia? She's from the military academy. Why did you do that?" Annoyed, Cynthia glared at Brunhilde and snapped, "Why can't a student from Sphinx Academy help me? Have you forgotten about the regulations we were made to memorize? Outside this fortress, the two schools must work as one." Brunhilde turned pale, as that was the first rule that all cultivation students in the Mystic Kingdom were taught. However, she didn't want to admit she was wrong, so she glared at Ariana and said, "It's fine to save the life of a fellow student. However, with how close you are to the military academy, it's no wonder you sold our secrets to them." Ariana didn't know what to say because she felt that the accusation was preposterous. Turin and Andy looked at each other in amazement. As current students, they had always respected graduates like Brunhilde so much. Before that day, they had always thought that graduates were unapproachable and out of reach, to the point where they wouldn't even look them in the eyes when they passed on the street. However, Brunhilde's behavior made them question that logic. Turin summoned his courage, glared at Brunhilde, and said, "Ariana would never betray the Sphinx Academy. Why would she win a mine for us instead of the military academy if she was a traitor?" "That's right," Andy added in agreement. Everybody around them was astonished, and they all stared at Ariana. They hadn't heard about that achievement and couldn't believe their ears. Andy became furious when he realized that the others didn't believe Turin. He felt they needed to know the facts about the mine to understand how big of a deal Ariana's achievement was. So he clarified impatiently, "It's not a coal mine. It's an essence crystal mine." Everybody fell silent for a second. They all believed Andy was an idiot, and they burst out laughing. "An essence crystal mine? How can anyone be so stupid to think the military academy would give us one of those?" Someone in the crowd snapped. Another person added, "He can't even tell a proper lie. This boy is such a joke." They all laughed hysterically. They might have believed Andy if he was talking about a large number of essence crystals, but he was talking about a whole mine, which made his story more unbelievable. Even the elders of the cultivation schools couldn't win a mine filled with essence crystals. So who does she think she is? Brunhilde said. Chrissy whispered something in her ear, and Brunhilde's eyes lit up. She remembered that she had called Finian over to join them. Finian wasn't an ordinary graduate. He had graduated from the Sphinx Academy 10 years previously and was currently a lieutenant colonel and a level 5 spiritual king. He had heard the news just like everyone else there, and he had decided to go and see for himself what all the commotion was about. Chrissy thought she saw Madeline in the crowd, but when she looked again, Madeline wasn't there. Meanwhile, Madeline was staring at Ariana while she hid at the back of the crowd. She stared attentively like a snake, waiting to pounce on its prey. Ariana, however, had no idea that Madeline was there. She just wanted to redeem her points and leave the exchange center, but the people surrounding her made it hard for her to escape. This is so annoying, she thought. Ariana was about to lose her temper when Finian arrived. He stood in front of her and shot her a dirty look. Brunhilde smiled at Finian. "This is Ariana Grace. Unfortunately, she has a habit of bullying Dr. Harper. She even made her cry on several occasions," she said. She was referring to Dakota Harper, the favorite niece of Master Harper. Brunhilde knew Finian was madly in love with Dr. Harper, so she planned on making Finian angry with Ariana so he could do her dirty work. When Ariana had returned from the Dayless Woods, Finian had taunted her because of his love interest, Dr. Harper. "I remember you," Andy said as he pointed at Finian. "Ariana, he's not a good person. When you were still in the Dayless Woods, this man bragged about how you would die there. He also said it would take you at least 10 years to become a lieutenant colonel because you're not skilled enough. And there's more." Andy had a good memory and repeated everything Finian had said about Ariana. Just looking at the lieutenant colonel gave Ariana a headache. She didn't want any trouble, but those people just wouldn't leave her alone. "Do I look like an easy target?" she wondered as she bit her lip. Before Ariana could say anything, Finian's eyebrow furrowed, and he asked, "Did you make Dakota cry?" He spoke her name without any formality, as if he and Dr. Harper were close. Ariana frowned and retorted, "Are you in love with her?" Finian didn't try to hide his feelings for Dr. Harper as he replied without hesitation, "Yes, I am. She's the love of my life." Ariana said, I see." But before she could finish her statement, Turin yelled sarcastically, "According to Brunhilde, loving someone from another school means you're a traitor to the Sphinx Academy." Ariana smiled as she glanced at Turin and reasoned, "That's a smart comeback." Brunhilde felt rather embarrassed, as her plan hadn't worked as intended. Finian sneered at Ariana and said, "You're smart for an insignificant girl. I'll give you that. However, know that you're no match for my power. I'm Finian Wilkinson, a lieutenant colonel and a level 5 spiritual king, and I advise you to know your place," Finian said proudly at Ariana. "What about you?" he asked. At that point, Ariana wanted to end that confrontation, so she didn't respond. However, Brunhilde, who had seen a glimmer of hope for her plan to humiliate Ariana, smirked and replied, "She became a level 2 spiritual king during the battle in the arena earlier." Finian sneered at Ariana and repeated, "A level 2 spiritual king? You don't have enough power to deserve to stand in my presence." He looked at Ariana's friends behind her and continued, "Students nowadays think so highly of themselves." Finian looked at the students as if they were insignificant beings. He didn't attempt to hide his disdain and disgust for them. Turin and Andy, who had just lost all respect for graduates, were furious when they saw the look in Finian's eyes. They couldn't stand the way he treated them. At that moment, all they could think of was a way to make Finian regret his words that day. Brunhilde was thrilled at that point, so she joined in and said mockingly, "Finian, that's all she can do. She's not qualified to even graduate. We shouldn't even take her seriously." "What makes you think Ariana can't graduate?" Cynthia asked in an annoyed tone. She then took an intricately carved box from her sleeve, handed it to Ariana and explained, "Here are the badges of the Blue Sky assassins you killed. I've kept them for you. Here you go." Brunhilde's face darkened at the sight of the box as she reasoned, "This girl is trying to ruin my plan." Just then, another person squeezed through the crowd. It was Arnold. He also gave his badges to Ariana and said, "Here are some more badges from the Blue Sky assassins you killed. I've also kept them for you. Please, take them." Ariana had never imagined that the badges she gave away would return to her at a critical moment like that, because they were so hard to come by. Brunhilde's face darkened, and she snapped, "So what if they saved all their badges for you? There's only enough to let you graduate. As for becoming a major, dream on." Ariana glanced at her before turning to Finian and saw that he was also smirking. She then looked over and saw Chrissy. Ariana noticed that Chrissy was looking at someone in the crowd. She followed Chrissy's eyeline and spotted Madeline in the crowd. She met Madeline's gaze, and Madeline smirked viciously. She was waiting to see Ariana make a fool of herself. Ariana turned around to look at her friends, and the concern in their eyes comforted her. She smiled at Andy and said, "Time to get up." Andy was confused, as he didn't understand what Ariana meant, so he asked, "Get what up?" He had gotten tired and sat on the sack, completely forgetting about it. Ariana pointed to the sack, and Andy finally realized what she meant. He immediately stood up. She gave him a long look before ordering, "Open the sack." Andy quickly opened the sack. When the sack was opened, the crowd wasn't curious about what was inside. Instead, they all whispered and laughed about how Ariana and her friends were worthless. Andy jumped when he opened the sack and exclaimed, "Holy crap!" He startled everybody, and their attention was drawn to the sack. However, they still couldn't see its content. Turin had to grab Andy to stop him from falling. "What's wrong?" he asked. Andy pointed at the sack with a shaking finger and replied, "Look inside the sack." The sack was only slightly open, and Turin had to move very close to it to see what was inside. Brunhilde frowned and said accusingly, "He's only pretending to be shocked by the content of the sack. They're trying to trick us by making it look like the sack is full of badges. How pathetic." Andy looked at her disdainfully. Brunhilde grew uneasy when she saw the look on Andy's face and wondered, "What's that about?" Meanwhile, the others soon learned the answer to that question when Turin opened the sack wider. Everyone gasped in astonishment at what they saw. The sack was filled with military badges of the Blue Sky Kingdom. Everybody who saw them froze on the spot as if they were under a spell. They couldn't believe their eyes. "The only real badges are the ones on the surface," Brunhilde speculated as she tried to convince herself and the crowd. "Even if that's the case, the badges on the surface are enough to make Ariana a lieutenant colonel," someone said in the crowd. Finian was hoping to see Ariana make a fool of herself, but things had turned out quite differently. He frowned and was very upset at the prospect of Ariana becoming a lieutenant colonel. Andy was the most excited of all of Ariana's friends. He couldn't make a coherent statement because he'd been sitting on a sack full of military badges the entire time. As he realized the implication of what he had done, Andy said, "My butt has never touched anything so valuable. I can brag about this for the rest of my life." Turin gave Andy an indescribable look and thought, he's right. He can brag about this for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, everybody looked at Ariana with a newfound sense of respect. In the competition against the military academy, they had seen how skilled Ariana was. She single-handedly defeated 5 opponents, but that still hadn't been enough to earn their respect. However, she had risen to a new level in their eyes at that moment. They began to believe what Turin had said about Ariana's other achievements. "She's amazing!" Someone in the crowd yelled. Another person added, "A whole sack of badges! Now that's impressive!" Brunhilde was furious at the crowd's reaction and insisted, "It's just on the surface. Military badges have different levels, but they look similar to the shoulder badges of students, which have no value. Maybe a lot of them are shoulder plates." "I don't think that's the case," Chrissy said as she stepped closer to the sack and examined its contents. She then whispered to Brunhilde, "They're all military badges." Brunhilde became livid. "They can't be," she murmured as she clapped her hand over her mouth in shock. Ariana found Brunhilde's claim that the badges were fake funny because she knew Jake had handpicked them himself, so she knew for a fact that the badges were all real. Brunhilde cleared her throat when she realized the sack was filled with real military badges and snapped. "So what if they're all military badges? Ordinary ones don't get you any special rank. You'll still be a loser." Turin glanced at her and retorted, "I don't think you should talk about your rank like that. Even though it isn't that special, it's still a military rank, so you should be content with it." Brunhilde almost choked. She glanced at Ariana and her friends and wondered, where did her friends learn how to retort such hurtful comebacks? She then smirked and insisted, "I bet there's probably junk under the surface." Ariana wasted no time in emptying the sack's contents on the ground, and the crowd instantly gasped. The valuable badges fell to the ground and glistened as the sun shone on their surfaces. It was almost blinding to look at them. Everyone gazed from the badges to Ariana in astonishment. They were even more amazed by how Ariana emptied the sack so carelessly as if its contents weren't priceless. Her movements were so rough and unladylike. "Those aren't ordinary badges!" A student in the crowd yelled as she fainted. She had never seen so many valuables in one place in her life, and the sight of them made her dizzy. Another person in the crowd yelled in shock, "Most of them belong to lieutenant colonels." "I see colonel ones too," someone else added. "Oh no, there are senior colonel badges as well." Everybody was shocked, to the point that they didn't dare try to take the badges. Most of the people that frequented the exchange center weren't known for their honesty, so there was a rule that anyone who tried to steal or forcefully take a badge there would be stripped of their rank and kicked out of Peace Grassland. Finian's face practically turned green at the sight of the pile of badges on the ground. He had just laughed at Ariana and said it would take her at least 10 years to become a lieutenant colonel. "Oh, God," he murmured as he tried to calm his frantically beating heart. He realized that Ariana had enough badges to become a general, and he wondered as he cursed his luck. Will I have to address her as General Grace? Ariana looked around and was quiet for a second before she called Werther, Arnold, Shlomo, Cynthia, and Luigi. She then pointed to the pile of badges and said, "Take as many as you can carry in one hand, but you can only have one go." Ariana had gotten that inspiration from her previous life. She remembered how some generous firms would put money in a box during the end-of-year party and let their employees take a handful. They could keep whatever they grabbed in one hand. It had been a great feeling, so she decided to replicate it. Everyone was baffled by Ariana's offer, and they reasoned, "That's so generous." Luigi didn't know what to say, because when he had first met Ariana, he had been intent on killing her to win a competition. The memory of that day made him so embarrassed that he almost wanted to slap himself. To make it fair, Ariana ordered Andy and Turin to return the badges to the sack. Andy held the sack open while Turin scooped the badges into it. It looked like the two boys were loading potatoes. Everybody in the exchange center had stopped whatever they were doing and had gathered around Ariana and her friends when word of the sack containing hundreds of badges got out. After the badges were back in the sack, Ariana gestured at those she had just named, signaling them to form a queue. As Brunhilde and the others watched on in horror, Ariana glanced at them and smiled. After their initial shock had subsided, they still stood there as though they'd been frozen. Ariana didn't care and didn't have time to concern herself with why they were still there. "Ariana, I can't take them," Cynthia said as she realized what Ariana truly meant. Ariana retorted, "Of course you can." Cynthia blushed and continued, "You saved my entire team. Without you, we wouldn't even have any badges. You don't need to give us more. It's us who should repay you for what you did." The other members of Cynthia's team nodded in agreement. Ariana insisted earnestly, "Don't worry about it. I picked them up in the woods. I barely lifted a finger to get them." Jake was walking toward her at that moment. He almost tripped when he heard what she said. It was true that Ariana had found the badges in the woods. However, she didn't do that alone, as Jake did most of the picking. He had been shaking the whole time he was picking up the badges because of the sacred Imperial spider's greedy eyes on him. It had been hard work for him. Seeing Ariana's seriousness, the people around her finally realized she genuinely wanted to give out the badges and that she wasn't just doing it to gain public sympathy. Hence, they lined up and grabbed the badges in turn. The badges were quite sizable, which meant they couldn't take many with one hand. However, they each got just about enough to raise their ranks by one level. It all depended on their luck. The most fortunate ones got badges from colonels or senior colonels. After Cynthia and the others took the badges, they happily went to redeem their points. Ariana was focused on observing her friends, who had followed her to the exchange center, as the students picked the badges. She noticed the longing on their faces as they watched what was happening. Little did they know that Ariana had better things in store for them. She hadn't revealed her intentions yet, because she didn't want to let ungrateful people take advantage of her. Therefore, she planned on only helping those she deemed simple and kind. She was relieved to see no envy on her friends' faces. "I'll be calling some more names," Ariana continued. That time, it was Ariana's team member's turn. she instructed them each to take 2 handfuls of badges. She knew her good friends very well and told them to take 3 handfuls. As for what kind of badges they could get, it all depended on their luck. After giving away the badges, she had less than half the sack's contents left. All the students who took badges had redeemed their points, and they were ecstatic with their new rankings. Cynthia and her team members all rose by 1 rank and had almost all become lieutenant colonels. Axel and his 7 friends all graduated, thanks to the points they accumulated from the badges. They were also promoted to majors. They didn't redeem all their points because they weren't in a hurry. In addition, they hadn't gained enough accomplishments yet, which meant that rising higher would only give them empty titles. Therefore, they kept the rest of their points to earn cultivation resources. After everyone had finished picking from the sack, Ariana dragged it to the exchange counter. There were 3 counters, and all the staff behind them were lieutenant colonels. Ariana didn't waste much time deciding which counter to head to, as she immediately chose the one in the middle. Her decision had no reason behind it, as all the counters delivered the same service. Brunhilde, who for some reason was still there, became furious at Ariana for ignoring her. "Why can't things ever go how I want them to?" she murmured, almost teary-eyed. She stared at Ariana with a remorseful look, hoping the latter would feel pity for her and offer her some badges. However, despite her impressive emotional blackmail, Ariana still ignored her. Brunhilde believed that Ariana was doing it intentionally to humiliate her. That idea filled her with so much hatred that she shot Ariana a dirty look. The lieutenant colonel sitting behind the middle counter was called Edilio Estrada, and he watched Ariana as she approached him. He wasn't the only one, as everybody's eyes were glued to her. When Ariana reached the counter, Edilio cleared his throat, adjusted his facial expressions, and said, "Hello, Miss Ariana Grace." Ariana was surprised at his formal tone and asked, "How do you know my name?" Edilio chuckled and replied, "You've attracted quite a bit of attention here. It's hard not to know your name. How can I help you?" He added, with a sincere smile as Ariana's beauty mesmerized him. Ariana paused briefly before saying, "I'd like to redeem all these badges for points. I think I'll become a colonel for now." Edilio choked on his saliva as he was caught off guard by Ariana's request. "For now?" he repeated in shock and wondered. Does she mean she has enough badges to become a senior colonel or a general, but chooses to remain a colonel for the time being? Edilio looked at Ariana's shoulder badge to verify that she was indeed a student. When her friends had exchanged their badges, they had only had enough points to raise their ranks by 1 level, so he wasn't alarmed. However, he soon discovered that Ariana's case was quite different. She simply gave him the entire sack and ordered, "Turn them into points first, please." Edilio was speechless when he saw the half-full sack of badges. As though he knew the question on everybody's mind, he rubbed his nose and asked curiously, "If you don't mind me asking, where did you get all these badges?" Most of the crowd was eager to hear Ariana's answer. Even though she had already stated that she had picked up the badges in the Dayless Woods, they didn't believe her and were curious to know the truth. Ariana replied, "I found them and picked them up in the Sacred Imperial Spider's Woods." "The Sacred Imperial Spider's Woods?" Edilio repeated. He paused briefly as he felt the name sounded familiar before adding, "Holy cow! Isn't that the territory of one of the 7 Beast Kings? The sacred imperial spider is a peak spiritual overlord, isn't she?" he asked. Someone in the crowd said, "It's probably a spiritual saint already." "OMG!" Another person in the crowd yelled. "That's so scary. Weren't you scared of getting eaten alive or killed?" Edilio asked admiringly. Everyone looked at Ariana in amazement and waited for her answer. However, she knew they wanted to know the exact location she got the badges from. She decided not to reveal that information because she knew the sacred imperial spider would be angered by their intrusion and would kill them on the spot if she found them. Ariana looked behind her and saw a familiar face in the crowd. "Jake, over here!" she yelled as she waved to him. Everyone turned around, shocked to see young Lord Grace, the son of General Victor Grace. Although family titles weren't considered important in the Peace Grassland, and everybody earned their ranks equally, one's background still held some kind of regard in people's eyes. "He's General Grace's son," someone in the crowd said. They were all surprised by how casually Ariana spoke to the young lord. They felt that Jake would be offended by that. However, while they worried about how the young lord would react, Jake rushed to Ariana's side. "What are you doing here?" he asked in excitement. The others couldn't believe that Jake didn't seem bothered by Ariana's tone. Brunhilde and Finian's faces darkened, as not only had Ariana found so many badges, but she also appeared to be close to young Lord Grace. Finian was especially livid, as he had been trying to enter the Crown Prince's social circle, but his efforts had been futile. That was because the Crown Prince didn't socialize with ordinary people. Finian planned to introduce himself to Jake instead. He believed that if he could become the young lord's friend, he would eventually become close to the Crown Prince. So he approached Brody Holmes to make that happen. He chose Brody Holmes because Brody's grandfather was Master Holmes. Brody was a colonel and a level 7 spiritual king. Finian was trying to become acquainted with Master Holmes through his grandson. From there, he would make his way to Jake and eventually reach the Crown Prince. He wanted to slowly move up the social ladder like a snail. He didn't mind taking longer, since it was his life's goal. However, when he saw Ariana and Jake talking together casually, he felt a prickling sensation on his back and wondered, "Is this girl close to the young lord?" That thought made him panic, as he had just offended Jake's close friend. Finian reckoned he had to apologize to Ariana if he wanted to use the young lord's influence to get closer to the Crown Prince. So he racked his brain and soon formed a plan. He believed Ariana had to be romantically involved with the young lord because of how close they were, so he hurried off to prepare a surprise, which was intended as an apology to Ariana. Meanwhile, Ariana introduced Jake to her friends and acquaintances. "This is Jake Grace. He was the one who picked up all the badges. If you want to thank somebody, thank him. Feel free to ask him whatever you want," she said. After that, Ariana left Jake to chat with her friends while she went to Edilio to redeem her points. She was very well versed in the exchange rate of the military badges, so she knew that a Blue Sky Major's badge was worth 600 points. In contrast, a lieutenant colonel's, a colonel's, and a senior colonel's badge were worth 3,600 points, 12,800 points, and 48,000 points, respectively. After the calculations, Ariana had 1,000,000 points in total. Edilio's face almost turned green. He stared at Ariana and commented, "You are now richer than most of the elders in Mystic Kingdom." Ariana retorted, "It's no surprise, since I have amazing friends." Edilio was silent for a while before asking, "Are you sure you only want to be a colonel? With your points, you can easily become a senior colonel." The points, like the military badges, also had a fixed exchange rate. To graduate, one needed 5,000 points. A major needed 6,000 points, a lieutenant colonel 36,000 points, a colonel 128,000 points, and a senior colonel 480,000 points. The exchange system meant that one needed 10 blue sky military badges to move up a rank in the Mystic Kingdom's military. Ariana was also a little astonished by her 1,000,000 points. She tilted her head and gave it some thought. Of course, she could become a senior colonel, but she was only a level 5 spiritual king, and a senior colonel's mission could get her killed. Ariana shook her head and replied, "A colonel will do. I can handle that rank, but anything higher will be too difficult. I can only escape so many times before my luck finally catches up to me." Edilio couldn't understand what she meant, but he accepted that Ariana only wanted to become a colonel. Before long, Ariana was officially a colonel, and her shoulder badge was replaced with a shiny new one. And she still had ample points left to use for other things.